Chicago Blackhawks, the Kyle Beach cover-up. In 2010, during their Stanley Cup run, the Chicago Blackhawks organization covered up sexual assault allegations made by prospect Kyle Beach against video coach Bradley Aldrich. An independent investigation revealed that senior management, including GM Stan Bowman and coach Joel Quenneville, were informed of the allegations but chose to delay action until after the playoffs. For 3 weeks, the organization did nothing. Aldrich continued working with the team and even participated in Stanley Cup celebrations in Beach's presence. The cover-up only came to light in 2021, forcing the resignations of Bowman and Al McIsaac from the Blackhawks, while Quenneville resigned as Florida Panthers coach. The scandal revealed a catastrophic moral failure. The organization prioritized winning a championship over protecting its own players from sexual abuse. The Blackhawks paid millions in settlements, but the damage to their reputation and the trauma inflicted on Beach can never be undone. Toronto Maple Leafs, the Harold Ballard era. From 1972 until his death in 1990, the Toronto Maple Leafs were controlled by Harold Ballard, perhaps the most notorious owner in NHL history. Ballard was convicted and imprisoned in the 1970s for fraud, theft, and tax evasion related to misappropriating Maple Leaf Gardens funds. During his tenure, Ballard's mismanagement, cost-cutting, and combative relationships with players and staff turned the team into one of the league's most dysfunctional organizations. He feuded publicly with stars like Daryl Sittler and Lanny McDonald, traded away fan favorites, and developed a reputation for valuing profit over competitiveness. While the arena that housed the team, Maple Leaf Gardens, was later revealed to have been the site of sexual abuse by employees in the 1990s, those crimes occurred after Ballard's death in 1990. The abuses were not attributed to him personally or to his ownership period. The Ballard era is still viewed as the darkest chapter in Leafs history, a time defined by financial control, poor judgment, and toxic leadership that took decades to repair. San Jose Sharks, Evander Kane's gambling and conduct investigation. The San Jose Sharks' most turbulent scandal centered around forward Evander Kane, whose off-ice controversies became major news between 2021 and 2022. Kane faced multiple allegations of gambling on games, violating COVID-19 protocols, and using a fake vaccination card. Although the NHL investigation found no evidence he bet on Shark games, he was suspended for conduct violations and later had his contract terminated for breaching COVID-related travel rules. The saga strained the team's locker room and damaged its public image, with reports of teammates voicing frustration about his behavior. While not on the scale of league-wide abuse scandals, the Kane controversy stands as the darkest and most high-profile episode in Sharks history, one that forced both the NHL and its clubs to re-examine player accountability off the ice. Philadelphia Flyers, the Eric Lindros medical negligence. In 2000, Philadelphia Flyers star Eric Lindros collapsed with a serious lung injury during a game. Despite the severity of his condition, team officials attempted to transport him on a commercial flight against medical advice, a decision that could have been fatal. Lindros' parents intervened, potentially saving his life by insisting he receive proper medical care. The incident exposed a dangerous organizational culture that prioritized team control over player safety, permanently damaging the relationship between the franchise and its superstar. The controversy highlighted the sometimes adversarial relationship between teams and players regarding medical treatment. Lindros, once the face of the franchise, never played for the Flyers again, and the incident became a cautionary tale about how teams handle player health issues. Utah Hockey Club, decades of financial failure. The Arizona Coyotes/Utah Hockey Club franchise represents the most prolonged financial disaster in NHL history. After relocating from Winnipeg in 1996, the team struggled continuously, losing an estimated $200 million since 2001, with annual losses exceeding $50 million in some years. The crisis peaked in 2009 when the team filed for bankruptcy, forcing the NHL itself to purchase and operate the franchise for 4 seasons. Despite multiple ownership changes and relocation threats, the team's financial situation never stabilized in Arizona. The continuous failure to secure a long-term arena solution ultimately sealed the franchise's fate. In 2024, after nearly 3 decades of financial bleeding, the team was sold and relocated to Salt Lake City, becoming the Utah Hockey Club, marking the end of the NHL's longest-running problem franchise. New York Islanders, the John Spano ownership fraud. In 1996, businessman John Spano purchased the New York Islanders for $80 million using an elaborate scheme of forgery, wire fraud, and falsified financial documents. Spano convinced the league and Fleet Bank to approve the transaction, despite having nowhere near the necessary funds. The fraud was only uncovered after Spano missed subsequent payments. He was arrested and pleaded guilty to multiple charges, receiving prison time and millions in restitution. The scandal exposed a massive failure in the NHL's owner vetting process. The Islanders saga became so infamous, it was featured in an ESPN 30 for 30 documentary, Big Shot. The franchise was left destabilized for years, as Spano's fraud prevented legitimate ownership from implementing a proper rebuilding plan, setting the team back for nearly a decade. Colorado Avalanche, Quebec Nordiques relocation. The Quebec Nordiques relocation to Denver in 1995 remains one of the most painful franchise moves in NHL history. Despite having a passionate fan base and a roster loaded with young talent like Joe Sakic and Peter Forsberg, the team couldn't survive in Quebec City. The primary driver was the Quebec provincial government's rejection of a request for financial assistance for a new arena, making the franchise financially unsustainable. Owner Marcelo Boot sold the team to a group that immediately moved it to Colorado. The wound was deepened when the team, renamed the Avalanche, won the Stanley Cup in their very first season in Denver. Quebec fans watched in anguish as their former team achieved greatness in another city, creating a lasting bitterness that continues to this day. Carolina Hurricanes, Hartford Whalers relocation. In 1997, the Hartford Whalers relocated to North Carolina after owner Peter Karmanos failed to reach an agreement with Connecticut officials regarding facility improvements. The move alienated one of the most loyal fan bases in hockey, who had supported the team through years of mediocre performance. The Whalers' iconic logo and Brass Bonanza theme song remain beloved hockey symbols decades later, while many original fans never embraced the relocated Hurricanes. The team's departure left a permanent hockey void in a traditional Northeastern market. The controversy deepened when Carolina won the Stanley Cup in 2006, a championship that Hartford fans believe should have been theirs. The relocation represents another example of the NHL's willingness to abandon established markets for the promise of Southern expansion. Dallas Stars, Minnesota North Stars relocation. The 1993 relocation of the North Stars to Dallas is remembered by Minnesotans as a betrayal by owner Norm Green, who earned the nickname Norm Greed for the move. The franchise was struggling financially, playing in the dilapidated Met Center with declining attendance. The relocation left Minnesota without NHL hockey until the Wild arrived in 2000, creating a 7-year void in the state of hockey. The move was particularly painful because Minnesota's hockey tradition ran deeper than almost any other American market. The Stars found immediate success in Dallas, winning the Stanley Cup in 1999, further salt in the wound for abandoned Minnesota fans. The North Stars relocation became a cautionary tale about how quickly even the most traditional hockey markets could lose their teams. Vancouver Canucks, the Bertuzzi-Moore incident. On March 8, 2004, Vancouver Canucks forward Todd Bertuzzi attacked Colorado's Steve Moore from behind, punching him in the head and driving him face-first into the ice. Moore suffered 3 fractured neck vertebrae, facial cuts, and a concussion that permanently ended his professional hockey career. The attack was widely viewed as premeditated retaliation for a hit Moore had delivered on Canucks captain Marcus Naslund in a previous game. The incident moved beyond league discipline into the criminal justice system, with Bertuzzi facing criminal assault charges in Canada and a civil lawsuit seeking 68 million Canadian dollars in damages. Bertuzzi served a 17-month suspension, one of the longest in league history at the time. The incident established a critical legal precedent that player actions are not solely governed by the NHL rulebook and remains a permanent stain on the Canucks organization. Los Angeles Kings, the Mike Richards contract termination. In 2015, the Los Angeles Kings terminated Mike Richards' contract after his arrest for possession of oxycodone at the US-Canada border. The Kings cited a material breach of requirements to void the remainder of his contract, which still held 5 years and $22 million in value. The controversy became a major contractual dispute regarding the team's ability to terminate a highly lucrative long-term deal to achieve salary cap relief. The NHL Players Association filed a grievance on Richards' behalf before a settlement was eventually reached. This case established a precedent that off-ice legal violations could be leveraged by teams as a financial tool to escape burdensome contracts, raising questions about player rights and organizational power under the collective bargaining agreement. Boston Bruins, the 1948 gambling scandal. In 1948, Boston Bruins defenseman Don Gallagher was caught betting on NHL games, including ones involving his own team. The league responded with unprecedented severity, indefinitely expelling Gallagher from the NHL, effectively ending his career at age 23. The scandal rocked the original 6-era NHL, threatening the integrity of the sport at a time when gambling scandals had recently damaged baseball's reputation. NHL President Clarence Campbell made an example of Gallagher, showing zero tolerance for gambling. This represented the NHL's first major gambling crisis and established an approach that would influence league policy for decades. The harsh punishment reflected an era when threats to the game's integrity were met with permanent consequences rather than rehabilitation. New York Rangers, the 1948 gambling scandal. The Rangers were implicated in the same gambling scandal that affected the Bruins, with their player Billy Taylor indefinitely expelled from the league for betting on games. Taylor, a center who had played for multiple teams, saw his career abruptly terminated. The NHL's investigation revealed that Taylor had been placing bets with a known gambler in Detroit, sometimes wagering against his own team. The scandal threatened to undermine public confidence in hockey's legitimacy during a crucial growth period. The harsh punishment established the league's early stance on gambling and integrity issues, setting a precedent that would influence NHL policy for decades. Taylor and Gallagher were eventually reinstated in 1970, but by then, their playing careers were long over. Calgary Flames, Hockey Canada scandal link. In 2024, the Calgary Flames became embroiled in controversy when forward Dylan Dubé took a leave of absence from the team after being charged in connection with the Hockey Canada sexual assault scandal from 2018. The case involved allegations against several members of Canada's World Junior team. The controversy raised serious questions about the Flames' vetting process and how the organization handled the situation once the allegations became public. The team faced criticism for their initial response and communication, particularly regarding the timing of Dubé's leave of absence. The scandal highlighted the challenges organizations face when players are implicated in serious off-ice misconduct, especially in cases involving sexual assault allegations. The Flames' handling of the situation became part of a larger national conversation about accountability in Canadian hockey. New Jersey Devils, the Ilya Kovalchuk cap circumvention. In 2010, the New Jersey Devils signed star forward Ilya Kovalchuk to a heavily front-loaded 17-year, $102 million contract. The NHL ruled that the structure was a deliberate attempt to circumvent the salary cap, as the majority of the money was paid in the early years, reducing the cap hit. The league levied a severe penalty, a $3 million fine, and the forfeiture of draft picks, including a first-round choice. However, when Kovalchuk retired from the NHL in 2013 to play in Russia, voiding the remaining 12 years, the Devils successfully applied for reconsideration. The league controversially reduced the punishment in 2014, forgiving $1.5 million of the fine and restoring a first-round pick. This decision caused widespread displeasure among other NHL teams, as it suggested that regulatory violations could be forgiven if circumstances changed, introducing uncertainty into CBA enforcement. Tampa Bay Lightning LTIR salary cap management. During their back-to-back Stanley Cup runs in 2020 and 2021, the Tampa Bay Lightning strategically used long-term injured reserve, yet LTIR, to maximize their playoff roster. By placing players like Nikita Kucherov on LTIR during the regular season and activating them for the playoffs when the salary cap no longer applies, the Lightning fielded a team that exceeded the regular season cap limit. While technically legal, many viewed this as exploiting a loophole in the collective bargaining agreement. The Lightning were able to keep a roster together that would have been impossible under normal cap constraints, giving them a significant competitive advantage. The controversy highlighted the tension between following the letter of the rules versus their spirit and raised questions about whether wealthy teams could game the system to their benefit. The NHL has since discussed potential rule changes to prevent similar circumvention in the future. Edmonton Oilers, the Stan Bowman rehiring. In July 2024, the Edmonton Oilers hired Stan Bowman as their new general manager, making him the first executive sanctioned for his role in the Blackhawks sexual abuse cover-up to return to a management position in the league. The decision came shortly after Bowman's reinstatement by the NHL. The hiring sparked immediate backlash from fans, media, and advocacy groups. Critics argued that Bowman's involvement in the catastrophic ethical failure in Chicago should have permanently disqualified him from leadership positions in hockey, regardless of his track record of building winning teams. The controversy highlighted how competitive necessity and a successful track record often override ethical concerns in NHL hiring practices, suggesting that accountability measures for executives are, by design, time-limited. The Oilers organization faced significant criticism for prioritizing on-ice success over ethical leadership.